Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News with big roster drama going down over the last couple of days, and Marved, it seems, almost certainly leaving, getting dropped, getting benched from their NRG lineup, and therefore that new super team has been linked together with some of the guys from Loud, Sadak and Les. Could they come into the roster? What's going on here? Especially with FNS revealing his perspective that maybe Loud will not decide to do this, because if they do, good luck doing anything in the near future from this team if they completely blow up their roster. But NRG might pay enough money to actually make this work. Very much on Twitter, your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. As always, I greatly appreciate it. This is the trophy for Shanghai, at least one view of it, so obviously massively important event coming up very shortly. Now this is a massively important update, but it's not really changed much. So Brimstone has been buffed here. Oh my god, here we go. The game is fixed, the game is saved, Brimstone is back. They've increased the radius on the smoke from 410 to 415 units, which is well, not much, as you can tell. Now it's slightly bigger than you think it is, because, well, when you consider a radius, you then consider a diameter is double the radius, and then when you consider total area, you're then squaring the radius. So this kind of improvement does increase more dramatically when you look at, pi r squared and 2 pi r and all this type of good stuff. But what you will find is that it looks like this. So this is on the left-hand side, the new version, or the older version, sorry, and this is the newer version on the right-hand side. So it is noticeable, like you can tell by the eye that it is bigger on the right than on the left, but it's not like it's changing the game, to be honest, but it is noticeably larger, to be fair. You guys can see on the right hand side here that actually, this part of the box is covered off, this part of the right hand side is covered off, and it seems a bit taller as well. I think, yeah, it is slightly taller, so it actually does look quite sizably bigger compared to what you'd think from the numbers. So, maybe that's something worth considering. Is this going to change the game? Very unlikely, but it's at least something to think about. Now, there was also this drama yesterday, already update from Pansy and from others, that, not attending Masters Shanghai. So we saw Sideshow and Bren confirm they will not be going to Shanghai for basically their own reasons. They're going to run the watch party from the Platjack couch and all this, and that's probably financially and physically and mentally going to be better for them than running it at the event, which raises questions on, as I've said before, whether what is the sustainability of this for Riot and for the casters? Because when you've got casters, top quality commentators, deciding to turn down working the event to do their own thing, it's not really a great look for how they feel the whole situation is structured. But at Pansy, I mean, obviously phenomenal caster for so many years, she wanted to go, but she's not able to because Hypoc is not able to attend. So as Pansy says, like, I tried to find someone, either they wanted to co-stream or we're double booked or something like that, but yeah, she's going to be at home, which is really sad actually. But as Hypoc says, the reason why he can't attend is just because of, illness, right, and just being unwell. As he says, I've not been well since Champs last year, where I collapsed and had to attend the ER in Los Angeles. Been dealing with daily symptoms. It's had a massive impact on my work life, but my personal too, as well as work. This is the first time I've ever had to take time away from work in any capacity, and it's been fairly terrifying. Try my best to get back to fighting fit and be back on the shows as soon as possible. So, yeah, wishing the best for him, because great casting pair. Neither are going to be there. So, yeah, I mean, you've got the other casting pairs that are going to be there. Of course, there's some casting pairs as well from, the Pacific that are probably going to get some of the limelight, which is going to be cool to see. But yeah, I guess people are just going to watch the watch parties anyway. Speaking of players not attending the event, Heretics Miniboo is going to be gone, and I'm assuming maybe Patty Tech is going to come back in here. But so I mean, look, Heretics, they've qualified for Masters Shanghai. What a great job they did to make it. They looked really solid in recent weeks, but Miniboo has decided with the team not to attend. Now, they've made so many roster changes lately. Of course, Woot comes in there undefeated, but until most recently when they lost to Fnatic. But as Miniboo says, look, I'm all good, but I'm not going to be attending the event in Shanghai. And Heretics came up with an explanation as to exactly why. Basically because of, burnouts, just feeling so much going on, right? And I totally get that. I think the main thing really for Miniboo is the fact that he's got exams. He's got exams coming up shortly. He's a full-time student as well as being a player, and that is a lot on his plate. I think what he's doing, juggling both, is very impressive and commendable, although I will say I'm somewhat surprised maybe that he, hasn't postponed his studies somewhat, because we see this with other players. Obviously, they're parents, and very understandably, you want to have something as a backup plan, but when you've got to study and do exams alongside, when you're playing at this kind of level of matches in a proper professional league and making good money to do so, you know, you might think about postponing that so you can absolutely give it your all, because I don't know if, you know, what he's feeling right now would be the case. And, you know, the mental health and all these other difficulties, you know, obviously very stressful for him in this moment. And then, you know, flying to Shanghai and all of that stuff would be a massive toll to take. But, you know, if he didn't have his studies, my feeling was that he'd probably be fine, as the other players are fine. So, you know, I think it's very interesting for Heretics to kind of manage this, because it isn't really good for anyone. It's good for Miniboo that he gets to, you know, rest and hopefully, you know, come back stronger for stage 2. But still, it's tough, isn't it, for Heretics? Again, they're going to have to make another change. And they might have to think about what the optimal solution here could be, because it's obviously going to affect Heretics' chances of actually going on to win this event. So, yeah, Platchat, here's their catch. Of course, getting ready for many of the casters not to be there. But let's talk about some of the Rostermania stuff, because Screwfacey's back in challenges with the Winthrop Esports guys. But we also saw YFP Valorant. They've made a couple of roster changes. They've brought in Will, of course, notably former 100 Thieves player. They've also brought in Jake. So this was a big talking point, because Jake, of course, after the Cloud9 days, decided to retire, right? He said, you know what, I should never have got into this Valorant thing in the first place. You know, I want to call it a day. I don't want to play anymore. And then he decided, actually, a couple of days later, you know what, you know, didn't really mean that. And I am still looking to potentially play in return. And apparently YFP reached out to Jake and they said, hey, are you looking to join our challengers team and run it up? And he was like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. So that's a cool announcement, I thought. Nice little update there to see, because I didn't want Jake to step away and retire forever, because I think he was too good of a player to do that. We then get this from Wazero, or from the database. Furia, obviously, they've extended his contract by a couple of years, up to 2026. So Furia making moves. We think Xander signed. We're pretty sure that Pancada hasn't, because he's decided not to, because other options may be on the table. Now, what could those options be? We saw NRG. Obviously, they're not attending Shanghai, and they weren't even close to attending Shanghai. So they apparently are going to make at least one change. The rumor that we saw yesterday was Marved is gone, and we don't know who is in. Right, it could be Pancada, potentially. It could be somebody else. They could change some roles around internally and bring someone else in entirely. Who knows what NRG are thinking? What we do think we know is that Louds are at least in conversation with NRG about a possibility there. This is what FNS has to say.
Could you share your thoughts on Sadak and Les joining NRG rumors? I mean, I think if NRG is able to get them, that would be a massive thing. That I think Loud would just... Loud is essentially saying, here you go, have my best players, we give up. If they lose those 2 players, you know? It doesn't really make sense on Loud's end.
Alright, guys. We're gonna have to slam A.
I'm done. I'm down for that.
Aren't they losing anyways? Yeah, but they have a whole second split. And they already made an event this year. So, like, how do you just give up? You know? Doesn't really make sense from a business perspective either, unless you're just getting rid of your Valorant division.
Voila.
So the big rumor that has been going around is that for various reasons, either financial or otherwise, the Loud situation is not especially, you know, sustainable, unless maybe on the chopping block, maybe acquirable. Not necessarily that Loud are going to drop less, but you know, there were rumors that they were going to get rid of Les for financial reasons. So if someone was to come in and say, hey, look, we'll pay some money for Les, get him off your team, bring him to ours, Loud might, you know what, say that makes sense and fair enough, let's do it. Which would be remarkable if it's true. And Sadak, we saw in yesterday's video, made it quite clear that it's not impossible that he leaves Loud. The team underperforms, he wants to win. If a better offer comes in, it could be happening. So for NRG's size, I think this is probably the thing that you try and do, right? Like, your super team with Marved and with those guys didn't work. What if you try a Sentinel style thing? You bring in a couple of guys from Sadak, or from Loud, obviously Sadak potentially as a new IGL, because they didn't really have a proper IGL with that former team. Then bring less in, potentially. I mean, it would be wild, but it would be doable, potentially, with that roster. But if you're NRG and you're trying to build another super team that's going to win stuff, because the other one certainly didn't, that is probably something you've got to think about. And maybe is the ideal case scenario. But then you've got to look at the Loud angle, right? Does it make sense for Loud to do any of that stuff? Should they really be letting go of their, you know, IGL, one of the best of all time to do it, and like their best player? I mean, seems like suicide in sense, right? Because if you're going to do that, what are you going to do? It's going to be a full rebuild at that point from top to bottom from Loud, and I mean, where do you even begin about rebuilding that roster? Like, do you then have to look internationally for some players at that point? So this is the risk for Loud, is that if they do lose Sadak and Les, having lost Sassy and Pancada recently, and also Pancada, you know, might be considering joining Loud right now. Maybe that's why he delayed on the Furious stuff, we'd believe. But if they lose Sadak and Les, then why would Pancada even go back? And Aspas is gone. So, like, the entire core would be gone from Loud. And where would they go in the future, right? So this is the big debate that potentially is being had. NRG would be interested, I imagine, in the same way that they were interested in getting Demon 1 and Ethan from Evil Geniuses, which of course did work out in their favor in the ends. But for Loud, you know, FNS's thoughts are they really can't afford this to happen, which maybe means that Loud will think, you know what, we've got to keep at least one of those guys, which then restricts the possibilities for NRG to actually get them, and means they're somewhat limited in terms of who they can actually sign to replace Mr. Marved in this situation, and potentially more changes over there to come. So very much interested your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.